John McCain has weighed in on all of this, that the latest attacks on the FBI, quoting from his statement, and the Department of Justice serve no American interest, no parties, no presidents, only Putin's, referring to Vladimir Putin. The American people deserve to know all of the facts surrounding Russia's ongoing efforts to subvert our democracy, which is why Special Counsel Mueller's investigation must proceed unimpeded. Our nation's elected officials, including the president, must stop looking at this investigation through the warped lens of politics and manufacturing partisan sideshows. If we continue to undermine our own rule of law, we are doing Putin's job for him. No doubt a number of other Republicans would turn that around on Senator McCain to say the revelations here that this might have been spurred, or an investigation of a presidential candidate might have been spurred by a political axe to grind, an agenda based on a much disputed and repudiated report, is also playing politics with this and risking our intelligence credibility. Having said that, now let's go to former Justice Department official Robert Driscoll, also former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker. Chris, what do you make of this, first off?
Neil, I don't know where to start. First, let me say that this is no reflection on the 35,000 hardworking men and women of the FBI who work counterterrorism, organized crime, white-collar crime. It's not them. Something went terribly wrong on the 7th floor at the FBI under former Director Jim Comey and in his inner circle. This is shoddy work. This is a type of thing that you learn at the FBI Academy, source handling 101, source vetting 101. You don't mislead a court. You present all the facts to a court when you're using intrusive methods like wiretaps, FISA, any type of electronic interception. So, but please, the American public should realize this is not the FBI. This is a very small group of individuals. Their names are on these FISA applications. This is a leadership breakdown under Jim Comey.
Robert, what do you think?
I was surprised at how detailed and frankly, disturbing the allegations were. I mean, like anything, I want to see the Democratic memo as well, because you read lots of legal briefs that seem great, and then you see the other side. But from what I've read, it's disturbing, and I think if people remove their partisanship from it and just say that a party in power running the government, its candidate running to succeed, used apparently government apparatus to launder their opposition research and get surveillance of the opposing campaign. That's tough.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chris. If that was the case, and you have to go back in time to understand what the environment was like there in the heat of a presidential campaign, and let's say a FISA court judge would not know the origins of this memo or its sources that have been repeated or paid for by, largely paid for by Democrats or conducted by someone who had an axe to grind against then candidate Trump. We don't know. I'm just giving every benefit of the doubt. Would a judge approve such a clearance based on a single source?
The short answer is no. If a judge were made aware, first of all, I don't think they would have taken it to the judge with that information in there and gotten themselves a FISA warrant off of it. And one of the most important facts in that memo is that...
But how would they have identified it, Chris? I'm sorry for ignorance. How would that have been presented to the judge?
It should have been in the affidavit. The vetting of the sources, the reliability of the source and the reliability of the information is at second, third, fourth hand is very important to put in front of the judge. In my opinion, this source shouldn't have been used at all, but Deputy Director McCabe testified that they would not have been able to get the warrant without that. So someone had to make a conscious decision not to put that information in there, or that they knew about Fusion and their motivations, and they're being paid by opposition. It just smells really bad here, and it's sloppy tradecraft on the part of the FBI agents that were involved in this.
Robert, we're hearing from a letter co-written by the Democratic leadership, including Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Dick Durbin, Steny Hoyer et al., to the president. Let me just get to the chase. We write to inform you that we would consider such an unwarranted action, the release of this, as an attempt to obstruct justice in the Russia investigation. Firing Rod Rosenstein, the DOJ leadership, or Bob Mueller could result in a constitutional crisis of the kind not seen since the Saturday Night Live Saturday Night Massacre. Of course, I think they're referring back to Richard Nixon's time.
Right.
But what do you make of what they're saying? Of course, none of that is being contemplated now, we're told, but nevertheless, they seem to be saying, if it leads to that, not good. But what your thoughts?
You know, again, it strikes me that everyone's talking past each other here a little bit on the politics. That's kind of a non-denial denial. I mean, I think we should look at the substance of what this memo is about, and its allegations are pretty severe. And I think I agree with Speaker Ryan that it is kind of separate from the underlying Trump issue. I mean, I think to stretch the analogy a little bit, to me, this reminds me of the O.J. case. I mean, Mark Furman can be a bad guy, but it still might be O.J.'s DNA on the crime scene. And similarly, this instance of FBI misconduct is worthy of being investigated in and of itself, and that may be an independent question as to whether or not Trump did anything or his campaign did anything that requires some kind of legal action. But it seems to me one side's focused on one thing and one side's focused on the other, when I think this particular issue of this memo today is something both parties should take seriously. I mean, this looks like, and again, hopefully there's some explanation coming from the FBI or the Democratic memo, but it looks for all the world like this is just a straight political manipulation of what should be a bipartisan legal process.
But just to be clear, Robert, if the argument is, even at face value, if you were to say that this was started out as politically motivated, look what we uncovered, look what we found out. In other words, the argument might be from those pursuing this investigation, the ends justify the means by which it started. You say what?
Well, I think just a general ethical matter, that's not true. The ends don't justify the means. But I also think that the evidence has to stand or fall kind of on its own, and evidence can be tainted. And we saw in this instance, incomplete evidence being presented to a court, which is troubling. So I think that at the end of the day, even if there's problems with how it got started, the president's going to have to confront whatever evidence there is. But again, we haven't seen that much evidence, particularly against the president himself yet. And right now, this is the evidence we have, which appears to point to, FBI misconduct. And I think that's unfortunate that we're going through this. I think it does damage the FBI. But if it's true and there's no strong rebuttal forthcoming, the reputation deserves to be damaged a little bit.
All right, so Chris, I'll ask you. You're Bob Mueller. You're getting this brought to your attention. Not that he probably didn't know all of this. How does it affect what you're doing?
Well, first, Bob Mueller, soldiers on. I don't believe they're going to be able to draw an unbroken chain from the dossier all the way through to all of the various aspects of what former Director Mueller is looking at. In other words, I don't think it severely impacts the broader investigation that Mueller has ongoing. This is one FISA application. If it were a criminal case, they simply suppress the evidence and it wouldn't come in. I can guarantee you that anything that follows from the special counsel investigation is not going to be based on that dossier. That dossier is not on his radar right now as far as any type of evidentiary value whatsoever.